Hey everyone, we're working hard to get our first 1,000 subscribers, sign up and you won't regret it. The first time my wife ignored me on purpose, it felt almost childish. Not cruel. Not dramatic. Just deliberate. I remember because we were standing in the kitchen, 2 feet apart, and I could see the steam rising from her coffee like a fog between us. I asked a normal question, something small, something married people ask without thinking. And she looked right through me like I was a wall. No, I'm busy. No, not now. No eye contact. Just a quiet, practiced nothing. At first, I honestly wondered if she hadn't heard me. The faucet was running. The fridge hummed. Maybe she was distracted. So I asked again. Still nothing. She put her mug down, picked up her phone, and scrolled with her thumb like she was doing a demonstration for a class called How to Make Someone Feel Insignificant. I felt heat climb my neck. Not anger exactly. More like confusion turning into humiliation. Rachel, I said, careful. Are you okay? That time, she finally moved her eyes, just enough to glance at me, then away again. Like she was swatting a fly without lifting her hand. Then she grabbed her purse and left for work. No goodbye. No, see you later. The door clicked, and the house went quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful. It felt like someone had taken the air out. We'd been married 6 years. I'm not naive. We've fought. We've had cold days. But this was different. This wasn't a fight. This was a tactic. I found out where it came from that night. Not because she told me. Because she forgot her tablet on the couch, and it lit up when a group message came through. I didn't go digging at first. I swear I didn't. But the screen flashed with a preview. Just ignore him. 2 weeks. He'll break. I stared at it like it was a threat left on my doorstep. My stomach sank. My palms went cold. 2 weeks. I sat down slowly, like my knees had decided for me. Another message popped up. Men only learn when you stop feeding them attention. Then another. If he's not worshipping you by day 3, he's cheating or worthless. I should have put the tablet down. I should have walked away. Instead, I picked it up with the same careful dread you use when you lift a rock and expect to see something alive underneath. It was a group chat with 3 of her closest friends. Women I'd met dozens of times. Women who'd sat at my table, eaten my food, laughed at my jokes. And they were talking about me like I was a dog that needed obedience training. Rachel had typed earlier that afternoon. He's been so annoying lately. Always asking what's wrong. Always wanting to talk. One friend replied. Because he knows he's slipping. Make him feel it. Another. Silence is power. He'll panic. Rachel replied with a heart emoji. My throat tightened in a way that made swallowing hurt. Because yes, I'd been asking what was wrong. Because something had been wrong. For months, she'd been distant in little ways. She'd come home later. She'd laugh at her phone more than at me. She'd started going out with those friends more often, always with the same explanation, I need space. I figured it was stress. Work. Life. Maybe we were in a rut. So I tried. I asked. I planned dates. I cooked. I cleaned. And apparently, that made me annoying. The next morning, I tested reality like you test ice before you step onto a pond. Good morning, I said. Rachel walked past me in the hallway without a word. I followed her into the kitchen. Did I do something? She opened the fridge, took out creamer, poured it, and didn't look at me. I wasn't proud of what I did next. I stood in front of the fridge door so she had to look at me. Rachel. Please. What is going on? Her eyes finally met mine. They were calm. Too calm. And she spoke like she was reading from a script. I'm not doing this, she said. What does that mean? It means I'm not engaging. I'm not feeding this. I'm focusing on myself. Then she slid around me, grabbed her lunch from the counter, and left. I stood there with my hands hanging uselessly at my sides, like someone had unplugged me. 2 days turned into 5. 5 into 9. In public, she acted normal enough to fool anyone. If we were at the grocery store and someone spoke to us, she smiled. If her mom called, she'd talk. But with me? She treated me like a roommate who had overstayed his welcome. At night, she slept facing the other direction, phone tucked under her pillow like a secret. When I spoke, she didn't answer. When I touched her shoulder, she shrugged it off like I was a stranger. I went through every possible explanation like a man flipping through a stack of unpaid bills. Is she depressed? Is she overwhelmed? Did I screw something up and not realize it? I tried to apologize anyway. I'm sorry if I've been intense, I said one evening. I just want us to be okay. She didn't even blink. She just kept scrolling. Something in me started changing then, not dramatically, not overnight. More like a slow, steady fracture. Because love can survive arguments. Love can survive bad weeks. But love doesn't survive being erased. On day 10, I stopped asking questions. On day 11, I stopped cooking for 2. On day 12, I slept in the guest room. Rachel didn't react. Not even a flicker of curiosity. That's what hurt the most. Not the silence. The comfort she seemed to find in it. On day 13, I called my older brother, Jordan. I didn't tell him everything. I just said, she's shutting me out. Completely. He paused like he was choosing his words carefully. Is she seeing someone? The question hit my chest like a blunt object. I don't know, I said, and realized I was being honest. Jordan didn't say, probably not. He didn't say, don't assume. He said, if your gut is whispering, listen. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the guest room staring at the ceiling, hearing the faint buzz of her phone through the wall like an insect that wouldn't die. The next morning, she left early. And for the first time in 2 weeks, she forgot something. Her tablet again. It lit up at noon. Another message from the group chat. Day 14 is the breaking point. Make sure you're not home when he cracks. My stomach turned hard. I scrolled. Rachel had replied that morning. I'll be out tonight. He's been so quiet. I think it's working. Out tonight. Not home when I crack. The last message in the chain was from Rachel, sent just 10 minutes before she left the house. If he loved me, he'd fight harder. If he doesn't, then I'm done anyway. I set the tablet down like it was dirty. And I sat there in the quiet house, realizing something I hadn't let myself admit yet. This wasn't her needing space. This was her testing how much pain I could take. And there was only one way to stop being the experiment. That afternoon, I made a decision so calm it scared me. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I didn't confront. I started packing. Not everything. Just the things that were undeniably mine. And before I zipped the first suitcase, I opened my laptop and typed a sentence I never thought I'd write. Because if she wanted 2 weeks of silence, I could show her what real silence sounded like. I left the house before she came home that night, after placing one envelope on the kitchen table, addressed to her in my handwriting. I didn't rush. That's the part that surprises people when I tell this story later. They expect panic, rage, some dramatic midnight escape. But I moved through the house with the slow, deliberate focus of someone finally awake. I packed clothes first. Not all of them. Just the ones I wore when I felt like myself. Work shirts, jeans, the jacket I bought before we were married. I left the gifts she'd picked for me, ties I never liked, sweaters that smelled like her perfume. Let them stay. They belonged to the version of me she thought she controlled. Then documents. Passport. Birth certificate. Laptop. I didn't touch her things. I didn't want her to have that excuse later, that I'd violated something. This wasn't revenge yet. This was preparation. The house was too quiet while I worked. No music. No TV. Just the low hum of the refrigerator and my own footsteps, echoing like I was already a ghost. Around 4 in the afternoon, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the envelope. I'd already written her name on it. Rachel. Just that. No hearts. No my love. Inside, I'd placed a single sheet of paper. I hadn't written it in anger. I rewrote it 3 times until every sentence felt clean. Honest. Impossible to twist. It said, you asked your friends how to make me feel small. You asked silence to do your dirty work. So I listened. I didn't leave because you ignored me. I left because you chose to. By the time you read this, I won't be reachable. This isn't punishment. It's clarity. I won't compete with your friends for control over my marriage. That was it. No threats. No pleading. No explanations beyond what mattered. I placed the envelope dead center on the table, exactly where she always dropped her keys. Then I walked out. I didn't know where I was going until I was already driving. I ended up at a small extended stay hotel on the edge of town, the kind that smells like carpet cleaner and burnt coffee. Nothing romantic about it. But it was quiet. Neutral. Anonymous. I checked in under my first name only. That night, my phone buzzed at 6:42 p.m. Rachel. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. Then it buzzed again. And again. Text started coming through, stacking up like dominoes. Where are you? Are you serious right now? This isn't funny. I didn't open them. At 7:10, the call started. I turned my phone face down. This wasn't cruelty. This was consistency. She'd chosen silence as a weapon. I was just refusing to flinch when it fired back. At 8:03, my brother Jordan texted. Rachel just called me. She's freaking out. I typed back. I'm safe. Don't tell her where I am. A pause. Then, what happened? I thought about explaining. About screenshots. About 2 weeks of erasure. Instead, I wrote. She stopped treating me like a person. I'm done explaining myself. Jordan replied with one word. Okay. That meant more than any speech could have. Around midnight, curiosity got the better of me, not about her, but about the house. I opened our shared smart home app on my phone. Something we'd set up years ago and never bothered changing. The living room camera was still connected. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. Rachel came home just after 9. She dropped her purse on the counter. Tossed her shoes aside. Called my name once, casually. Like she expected me to answer. When I didn't, she walked into the living room. Her posture stiffened. She saw the suitcase-shaped absence by the door. She went to the kitchen. And then she froze. I couldn't hear sound, but I didn't need to. She picked up the envelope. Her hands shook as she opened it. She read. Then read it again. She sat down hard in the chair, like her legs gave out before her pride did. For a full minute, she just stared at the paper. Then she laughed. A short, sharp laugh that made my chest ache. She stood up, paced, threw her hands in the air. She grabbed her phone. That's when the texts turned ugly. "You're overreacting. This was supposed to help us," my friend said. I deleted that one without reading the rest. Then came, "You're proving my point by running away." That one stuck. Because for a split second, the old me almost believed it. But then I remembered the tablet. The messages. The plan. I remembered how small I'd felt standing in front of her while she scrolled. This wasn't running. This was refusing to beg. At 1:17 a.m., her friend Melissa came over. I recognized her immediately on the camera, tall, confident, always the loudest voice at dinner. They talked in the kitchen for nearly an hour. Rachel cried. Melissa gestured aggressively, like she was coaching her through damage control. At one point, Melissa picked up the note and waved it like evidence. Rachel shook her head over and over. I turned the camera off. I didn't want to see the spin. The next morning, I woke up to 23 missed calls. Voicemails filled my inbox. I listened to exactly one. Rachel's voice was calm. Too calm. "Okay. I get it. You made your point. You can come home now. We'll talk. Like adults." She still didn't understand. She thought this was a timeout. A tantrum. A phase. That's when I realized something else, something colder, clearer. She didn't miss me. She missed control. So I did the one thing she didn't expect. I called a lawyer. And before the call even connected, my phone buzzed again with a message that made my stomach drop. A screenshot. Sent from Rachel. It was a picture of my own note? Posted in her group chat. With her caption underneath. "He thinks this is some big move. How long before he crawls back?" The timestamp said 5 minutes ago. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, not from hurt this time. From resolve. Because now I knew. The silence hadn't taught her anything. But it had taught me exactly who I was married to. And what I needed to do next wasn't emotional. It was strategic. I scheduled a meeting with the lawyer for the next morning, while Rachel texted me, confident I'd be home by nightfall. The lawyer's office smelled like lemon cleaner and old paper. That detail sticks with me because it was so ordinary, and nothing about my life felt ordinary anymore. I sat in a vinyl chair across from a man named Howard, mid-50s, gray at the temples, eyes sharp but tired in the way of someone who's seen too many marriages end the same way. He didn't rush me. He let me talk. So I told him everything, about the silence, the group chat, the note, the screenshot she'd sent me like a joke she expected me to laugh at. Howard leaned back and steepled his fingers. "This isn't abandonment," he said finally. "You left a hostile emotional environment. That matters." I nodded, not because I fully understood the legal weight of it, but because hearing someone name what had happened felt grounding. He asked if there'd been infidelity. "I don't have proof," I said. "But I have instincts." Howard gave a half smile. "Instincts are usually the smoke. Evidence is the fire. We'll see if there's heat." We talked assets. The house. Accounts. Timelines. Then he asked something that caught me off guard. "What do you want the end of this to look like?" I didn't say revenge. I didn't say justice. I said, "I want to stop being manipulated." Howard nodded like that was the most reasonable thing he'd heard all day. When I left, I felt lighter. Not happy. But aligned. I turned my phone back on afterward, just long enough to see what damage control looked like in real time. Rachel had shifted strategies. The angry texts were gone. Now it was concern. "Can we please talk? I'm worried about you. This isn't you." That last one almost made me laugh. She had no idea who me was without leverage. I didn't respond. Instead, I went to work. I hadn't taken time off. I didn't need dramatic gestures. I needed routine. I needed something that existed outside the emotional chessboard she'd built. At lunch, my coworker Sam sat across from me and studied my face. "You look different," he said. "Good or bad?" "Like you finally slept." I smiled. That was accurate. Around 3, my phone buzzed again. A new message. Not from Rachel. From a number I didn't recognize. This is Melissa. Rachel's friend. You're handling this badly. I stared at the screen. The audacity almost impressed me. She followed up immediately. She was just trying to set boundaries. You're punishing her. I typed one sentence. Don't contact me again. Then I blocked the number. That night, Rachel tried something new. She showed up at my brother's house. Jordan called me while she was still there, his voice tight. She says she's worried about you. Says you're having some kind of breakdown. I closed my eyes. Did you tell her where I am? No, he said. But she's convincing. That was the point. She's been ignoring me on purpose for 2 weeks, I said. Following instructions from that friend group. This isn't confusion. It's strategy. Jordan was quiet. Then, do you want me to tell her to leave? Yes. 10 minutes later, he texted. She cried. Said she didn't mean it. Said she loves you. I didn't ask if he believed her. I already knew the answer. The next day, Howard called. Quick question, he said. Do you still share a cloud account? My stomach dropped. Yes, I said. Photos. Documents. Notes. Change the password. Immediately. I did it while he was still on the line. What's going on? I asked. Howard exhaled. She's preparing a narrative. Claims emotional abandonment. Claims you left without warning. Claims she was blindsided. I laughed, a hollow sound. She literally planned my breaking point in a group chat. I know, Howard said. Which is why documentation matters. That afternoon, I forwarded him everything. Screenshots. Timestamps. Messages. Not just the ones that made her look bad, the ones that showed intention. Silence as punishment. Manipulation as advice. The plan. Howard didn't respond right away. An hour later, he called. This changes things, he said. How? She's not the wounded spouse anymore, he said. She's the architect. That night, Rachel finally crossed a line. She emailed my boss. She framed it as concern, subtle, careful. I'm worried about my husband's mental health. He left suddenly. If he's been acting strange at work, I just wanted you to know he may need support. My boss called me into his office the next morning. He didn't accuse. He didn't pry. He just asked if everything was okay. I showed him the screenshots. All of them. He read silently. Then he leaned back and shook his head. I'm sorry, he said. That's not okay. Relief flooded my chest so fast it almost hurt. I'm fine, I said. But I wanted to be transparent. He nodded. You've been solid here for years. Let me know if you need flexibility. When I left his office, my hands were shaking. Not from fear. From adrenaline. Because now I saw the full picture. She wasn't just trying to control me. She was trying to control how the world saw me. That evening, I received one last message from Rachel before everything changed. You're making me look like the bad guy. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back my first reply in days. You did that yourself. Seconds later, she responded. If you keep pushing this, you're going to regret it. I didn't answer. Because at that exact moment, my phone buzzed with an email from Howard. Subject line. Discovery update. I opened it. And my breath caught when I read the first sentence. Because in her rush to control the story, Rachel had made a mistake she couldn't undo. The email revealed evidence Rachel never intended anyone else to see, and it proved her silence wasn't the only thing she'd been hiding. I read the email twice before it settled in. Then a third time, slower. Howard didn't exaggerate. He never did. During the preliminary discovery, routine requests, shared accounts, digital access, Rachel had forgotten something important. The cloud account. When I changed the password, it didn't just lock her out. It logged activity. Downloads. Uploads. Access times. And while she'd been busy crafting a story about my emotional abandonment, the metadata told a cleaner one. There was a folder I'd never seen before. Hidden inside an old backups directory, mislabeled with a date from 2 years ago. Howard's team found it because of a sync error, files duplicated across devices, then partially deleted. Sloppy. Inside were screenshots. Calendar entries. Receipts. Photos that weren't explicit, but intimate enough to leave no room for interpretation. Rachel hadn't been ignoring me because her friends told her to. They'd told her how to ignore me. Because she'd already been investing her attention elsewhere. There was a name I didn't recognize at first. Someone saved in her phone under a work-related label. Long dinners that matched nights she said she'd be out with the girls. Hotel receipts expensed incorrectly. Messages that talked around things instead of saying them outright. No declarations of love. Just comfort. Familiarity. Planning. An emotional affair that had been circling the runway for months. And the silence? That was supposed to push me into one of two outcomes. Either I'd beg harder, giving her validation while she decided what she wanted. Or I'd snap, giving her justification to leave clean. I sat on the edge of the bed in the hotel room, phone heavy in my hand, and felt something unexpected. Not rage. Relief. Because now every confusing moment had a spine. Howard called an hour later. "She doesn't know we have this yet," he said. "But she will." "What happens now?" I asked. "Now," he said, "we let her keep talking." Rachel didn't wait long. By that evening, she sent a long message, carefully written, unmistakably rehearsed. She took responsibility. Sort of. She said she'd been confused. That she'd felt lonely. That the silence was bad advice she shouldn't have followed. She didn't mention him. Not once. I didn't respond. The next morning, Howard formally filed. Irreconcilable differences. Attached exhibits. Screenshots. Timelines. Documentation that showed intent, not just betrayal, but manipulation. Rachel called within an hour of being served. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail this time. Her voice was shaking. She said we could work through anything. She said the note had scared her. She said she felt like she was losing everything. I listened to it once. Then deleted it. Because here's the part people expect me to regret. I never confronted her with the evidence directly. I didn't need the satisfaction. The legal process did it for me. Her lawyer contacted Howard 2 days later, requesting a settlement discussion. The tone had changed. No more accusations about abandonment. No more concern about my mental health. Just damage control. Rachel agreed to terms quickly. Faster than Howard expected. She kept the house, but refinanced it entirely in her name. I walked away with my share clean. No alimony. No drawn-out performance. And most importantly, no narrative she could twist. The group chat surfaced during mediation. Not all of it. Just enough. Enough for her to realize her friend's words were now part of the official record. Enough for her to understand that, just ignore him, would follow her longer than she expected. The last time I saw Rachel was at the signing. She looked smaller. Quieter. Not broken. Just exposed. She tried to catch my eye. I didn't look away, but I didn't soften either. When it was done, she said my name. I paused. She opened her mouth like she wanted to explain. Then closed it again. For the first time in months, she had nothing scripted. I walked out without saying a word. 3 weeks later, I moved into a new place. Smaller. Brighter. Mine. Jordan helped me carry boxes. Sam brought over a couch. Life kept happening. One night, as I unpacked, I found a copy of the note I'd written her, the draft I never used. I almost threw it away. Instead, I folded it and put it in a drawer. Not as a reminder of her, but as proof of something important. Silence can be cruel, but it can also be clarifying. Rachel wanted me to break. What she didn't expect was that the quiet would teach me exactly how strong I was without her voice in my head. And that was the last thing she ever took from me.